Residential site valuation and cost approach. Page 10. Competition. Competition is when two or more parties, properties, etc. are trying to obtain the same thing. When we talk about competition affecting property value, we are simply acknowledging that properties compete with one another in the marketplace for the attention of buyers. An informed buyer will consider other available properties before making a decision. So a property that purports to have a higher value must have something to distinguish it from other competing properties in the marketplace. Without something to justify a higher value, for instance, the last lot in an area, then the upper limit of value for a property is likely to be no higher than the highest competing property in the area. This is also the theory of substitution at work. Externalities. Externalities are any event, item, etc. outside the boundaries of a property. There are many factors outside a property that can affect its value. The main physical externalities that affect value include neighborhood, nuisances, environmental hazards. These can affect an entire area or just one property. The appraiser's job is to formulate an opinion as to their effect on value. If the specific externality hurts the value of a property, this should be explained in the appraisal report so that users of the report can follow the appraiser's reasoning. Substitution. Substitution says that an informed buyer will not pay more for a property or a feature in a property than a comparable substitute. Although each property is said to be unique, there is a point beyond which a buyer will not go for a particular property. Even when a buyer really likes a property, if the price is too high, then the buyer will seek out a ready substitute in the market. Of course, no one really knows what price point is too high until a person tries to sell a property for too much and no one buys it. Furthermore, investors buying a property for a future income stream are usually more price sensitive than a home buyer interested in a nice place to live. Theoretically, to an investor, income from one property is as good as another. If the price is too high, the investor will seek another substitute investment. Supply and demand. The law of supply and demand says that for all products, goods, and services, when supply exceeds demand, prices will fall. And when demand exceeds supply, prices will rise. Real estate markets also respond to the laws of supply and demand. But there is a lag time that exits for market forces to respond. The lag time is the result of the time it takes for real estate to be bought, sold, or developed. If developers see a need for housing, it takes time for them to build houses. And when they see that there is no longer a need for housing, they often have some houses started which still must be finished. The exact lag time for market forces to respond to supply and demand situations depends on the different property types and uses in an area. Page 11. Summary. A site is a parcel of land with enhancements that make it ready for a building or structure. Enhancements can be on-site improvements, for instance, utility connections, or off-site improvements, for instance, road access. An appraiser must consider the value of the site separately from any buildings or structures. 2. Value. Value is amount of goods or services offered in marketplace in exchange for something. 7 characteristics of real estate consist of 4 value and 3 physical. Maximizing value requires 4 value characteristics: dust, demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability, plus the 3 physical characteristics, which are immobility, indestructibility, and uniqueness. Buyers must want a site, feel it is useful to satisfy needs, perceive limited supply, and be free to transfer the site later. To have value, scarcity must be coupled with utility. Without demand, supply is meaningless. But a person must also have ability to purchase, effective demand. 3. Property is the right of ownership in a thing, such as the right to use, possess, transfer, or encumber it. Real estate is the actual physical land and all things attached, appurtenant to it. Real property is land and rights of ownership in real estate. Real property equals realty. Bundle of rights are all property rights conferred with ownership: right of use, right of enjoyment, right of disposal. Owner is one who secures entire bundle of rights. 4. Public and private restrictions on land can affect value. Public restrictions include 4 powers of government: police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Pete. Government restrictions via police power that can impact land value include zoning, building codes, and environmental laws. Private restrictions on ownership are deed restrictions, restrictive covenants, and CC&Rs, and easements, and are often used by original subdivider but can be added later and must touch and concern the land to be legal. For instance, minimum house size. 5. Value and price are not always equal. Value is what a typical person would pay. Price is what one specific person paid. Cost is dollars needed to build. Market value is the most probable price. Typical transaction is equal to an arm's length transaction, which is when a transaction occurs under typical conditions in the marketplace where all parties are acting in their own best interests. Typical conditions are: 1. Paid cash or mortgage through a lender. 2. No owner financing or unusual payment terms. 3. Buyer and seller not related. 4. Buyer and seller acting in own best interests. 5. No undue haste or duress. 6. Parties are reasonably informed and property and market. And 7. Property has been on market for a reasonable period of time. 6. Value principles are anticipation, which is when value is created by expectation of future benefits. For instance, appreciation, tax benefits, income. Balance, which is the best return on an investment that occurs with the right mix of capital, entrepreneurship, labor, and land. Sell. Change is all factors affecting value are changing. Competition is two or more buyers or properties that compete in the marketplace. Externalities is anything outside a property that affects value. Substitution is when an informed buyer will not pay more than a comparable substitute. Supply and demand is if supply exceeds demand, then prices fall, and if demand exceeds supply, then prices rise.